Section number 19 is entitled Prime Numbers. Prime numbers. So let's give a good definition for prime numbers. Integer, I don't like that, a whole number, integers can be negative. Let's not talk about negative numbers now. A whole number is said to be prime if the only numbers, a whole number x, is said to be prime if the only numbers that goes into x is the number 1 and x. And the number is not 1. 1 is not a prime number. The only number that goes into 1, here's 1. The only number that goes into 1, yes, 1 goes into 1, evenly. And that number itself, namely 1, goes into 1 evenly. And nothing else goes into 1. If I exclude this piece right there, then x can be 1. Because the only number that goes into 1 is 1 and itself. 1. The only number that goes into 1 is 1 and 1. 1 and 1 is just 1. I'm not adding them. I'm not 1 and 1 is 2. Okay, 1 is not a prime number. A whole number that is not prime is called composite. The number is composite if it's not prime. That is, 8 is composite. Because some number other than 1 and the number itself goes into it. Like 2 goes into 8 4 times. We didn't like 2, 4 goes into 8 evenly. So 8 is not prime. It is composite. So I'm going to give you a list of numbers and we're going to decide if it's prime or not. If it's not, it's called composite. So the question is P or C. The numbers are, say, 8, 14, 20, the number 7, the number 2, and the number 81. The number 8 is composite. Well, actually, we just talked about it. 2 goes into it. A number other than 1 and 8 go into 8. 14 is not prime. 7 goes in there. 2 goes in there. The number 20, why that's not prime because it's even. 2 goes into 20. 7 is prime. No, 1 doesn't go, 1, forget 1 and 7. 2 doesn't go into 7. 3 doesn't go into 7 evenly. 4 doesn't go in. 5 doesn't go in. 6 doesn't go in. But 1 and 7 do. Now, 8 can't go into 7. And if you try to do 8 into 7, well, it doesn't go 0 times because 0 evenly we mean. 0 times 7 is 9. 0 times 8, is not 7. If I say, oh yeah, you're right, it's 1. It's 1. No, it's not. 1 times 8 is not 7. It's 8. It's more than 7. Well, if 1 times 8 is more than 7, well then 2 times 8 is more than 7. 3 times 8 is more than 7. 8 doesn't go into 7. Nor does 9 or 10 or 11. It would be a proper fraction. Okay. 81. 81 is not prime because 9 goes into it. It's composite. What about 16? Well, 16 is an even number. 2 goes into it. Composite. 2 goes into every even number. So 4 is not prime because 2 goes into it. 6 is not prime because 2 goes into it. 8, 10, 12, 14, etc. They're not prime because 2 goes into it. So all of these even numbers I just listed, they're not prime. But what about 2 itself? Well, what about the number 2? Well, 1 goes into 2, which is good. And the number 2 itself goes into 2. Nothing else goes into 2 other than 1 and the number 2 itself. By the very definition of prime numbers, 2 is prime. And I don't know if we did, we did do 7. 7 is prime. So there's a standard joke. Since 2, now let me lay the groundwork. 2 is the only even number that's prime. And when you stand out, when you're the only one in a group with a certain property, you're said to be odd. Well, that may not be a nice thing to think, but let it go. If you have a unique property that nobody else has, you're said to be odd. 2 is the oddest prime of them all. That's the joke. 2, an even number, is odd. 2 is the oddest prime of them all. Now, other than 2, if you're an even number, you can't be prime. There are many, so every prime number must be odd. Not every odd number is prime, but every number except 2 that is prime is odd. 9 is not prime. 11 is. 13 is. 15 is not. 5 goes in there. 17 is prime. So is 19. 21 is not prime. 3, 7 go into it. 23 is prime. Only odd numbers are prime plus the number 2. So in this list of prime numbers, 2 is the oddest one of them all. It stands out. It's the only even number. So it's a silly joke. This completes the section of prime numbers. Tell your teacher that 2 is the oddest prime of them all.